The 2025 NAIA football season will get underway soon, so let's look at some of the top matchups heading our way this year. 2025 opens with some huge non-conference games on the final weekend of August. Morningside and Benedictine are coming off appearances in last year's semifinals. This regular season series is now in its third season, with each team winning by a field goal on the road in the first two. Keiser doesn't back down from a non-conference challenge at all. The Seahawks are staying in the NAIA this year with their first trip to the state of Indiana and a matchup with Indiana Wesleyan. Texas Wesleyan won this game last year in Crowley and carried that momentum through to an undefeated regular season. Lindsey would like to return the favor in Columbia. Georgetown has won 20 of 22 with in-state rival Pikeville, but that doesn't take away from the importance of this non-conference tilt. Both teams are coming off playoff appearances in this August season opener. The Ravens have the unenviable task of taking on a national semifinalist and then the defending national champion in their first two games. This game will mark the beginning of the E.J. Peterson era in Des Moines. Montana Tech's win over Carroll in last year's regular season finale was likely just enough to get the Orediggers into the playoffs and just enough to keep the Saints out. Carroll looks to stop a three-game slide against Montana Tech in this Frontier Conference crossover. Benedictine has what is likely the toughest schedule in the NAIA in 2025. Game 3 doesn't get any easier if Graceland comes to Atchison at full strength with the nation's best wide receiver in Gerald Monroe ready to go. Reinhardt and Southeastern were both just on the outside of the playoffs looking in last year. Definitely not a familiar place for the Eagles, and the Fire are starting to establish themselves as a potential contender. This is a big non-conference game. This one is a rematch of a second-round playoff game. It was a back-and-forth game throughout last year, won by Georgetown on the road. The Bobcats are reloading for this one, hosting this mid-September matchup. Not too many teams own a winning record against the all-time winningest football program in the NAIA, but Grandview actually does over Baker and has won the last 5 in the series. Late in the season last year, McPherson handed Evangel its first ever loss as a member of the KCAC. The Valor moved to the other KCAC division for 2025, but this crossover game will still hold a lot of meaning. Indiana Wesleyan dropped 77 on Marian in Indianapolis last season and won for the 4th consecutive time in the series. The Knights host this one for a second straight year, and don't think for a moment it hasn't been circled on the calendar. Divisional play gets underway for the first time in the Frontier Conference. Dakota State has earned a winning record in 8 of the last 11 years. Montana Tech has done so in 9 of the last 11 years. This marks the first meeting between the two and the Frontier East debut weekend. Lindsey and Georgetown as programs have the 2 best winning percentages in the Mid-South. One team, the other, or both have been in the playoffs each year for the past 15 years. A playoff spot might be in play with this matchup in early October. Montana Western handed Carroll the Saints' first loss in conference play in 2024. The high-powered Bulldog offense will meet the strong Saints defense earlier in the year this time, but back in Dillon for a second straight year. Dickinson State has been to the playoffs in each of the last 10 years. Rocky Mountain has been only once during that time. And although the Blue Hawks opened the season last year with a win over the Battling Bears, Rocky Mountain has won the 3 previous in the series. From the Frontier East to the Frontier West, we have another tough matchup in the league. Dillon, Montana to Caldwell, Idaho is a lot closer on the map than the time it takes to get from one to the other, and the series between the two has been pretty close over the years too. Between these two, there are 4 national championships in the last 7 years, 6 championship game appearances in that time, and the last 9 GPAC champions. It will be standing room only in Orange City at 1 p.m. Central on October 18th. These are 2 of the youngest programs in the NAIA, just 146 total games played between the two in their histories, but they are also 2 of the best programs in the country. Keiser already has a national championship. The Sun Conference title is likely on the line in this one. Concordia is on the verge of breaking through in the GPAC. The Bulldogs haven't been to the playoffs since 2001, and a win over the Mustangs would be big here. But Morningside has won 22 of 23 all-time in the series. One of the wildest endings to a football game happened in Winfield last year as Friends blocked a last-second field goal attempt and walked off with the win on the touchdown return. The Falcons come to Winfield again in 2025, this time for Southwestern's homecoming. Think anyone remembers 2024? Langston has been 6-4 in 2024, 2023, 2022, and 2021. The Lions have struggled late in seasons in recent years. This game at Texas Wesleyan is late enough in the year, and if the Lions have something still to play for, the Rams will have their hands full. Southeastern fans are probably still upset that the Fire was on the outside looking in at the playoffs last year. Look at the 3-point loss at home to St. Thomas as what probably ultimately kept them out. This year's matchup is way down south in Miami Gardens. If both teams are at full strength, and let me stress that again, if both teams are at full strength, this game should be the headliner game of the Heart North in 2025. Hopefully, that will be the case this year. Friends set the NAIA record for team rushing yards in a single season last year. New Kansas Wesleyan head coach Matt Middleton was on the offensive staff at Harding when the Bisons set the Division II single-season rushing mark in 2023. This one could be a ground game to watch. Taylor had the biggest turnaround of any football program in the NAIA last year, going from 2-9 in 2023 to 9-2 in 2024. The big loss at Indiana Wesleyan kept them out of the playoff picture. The Trojans host the matchup for Grant County bragging rights. Benedictine, Baker. This is a classic in the Sunflower State. One team or the other or both has won or shared the title in the Heart North, the Heart South, or the Heart overall before divisional play in 10 of the last 12 years. Both these teams had a legitimate argument for consideration for the playoffs last year. Each team was 8-2 and needed just that one more win. The Bulldogs have a 9-8 edge in the overall series, and this game could be for a playoff spot again. The Sooner Athletic Conference needs a playoff win. Both these teams made the playoffs in 2024, but neither picked up that elusive win. A playoff spot could be in play once again with this game in early November. Concordia picked up one of the season's biggest upsets, defeating number 2 Northwestern in Orange City, halting a number of Red Raider streaks. The Bulldogs are hungry for more and could be playing for more in this regular season finale. The Appalachian Athletic Conference had this game at the start of conference play in 23 and 24. It's much better to see it at the end of the regular season with the magnitude it will likely hold. Southern Oregon has been trending upward since that lost COVID year and got back into the national discussion with 8 wins last season. The trip for the Red Raiders just across the state line into Idaho has the potential to be for a long-awaited trip back to the playoffs. What are your top games for 2025? Let us know in the comments section. We're looking forward to another great year of NAIA football.